first off, congratulations on the film. I absolutely loved it. It gave me a lot of PTSD from the time when I graduated with a major in drama, and so I can totally relate to that. So anyways, first question is for Emma, our lovely director and writer. Why was it important for you to explore the emotionally exhausting pressures young women face, not only from their friends and families, but from themselves?
Totally. Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it, and I'm so sorry it was traumatizing. But I think I just wanted to showcase that sometimes feeling those pressures as a young woman feels like a horror movie, like being inside of a young woman's brain feels just horrific. And I just think you can't win. And sometimes I'm just like, am I taking crazy pills, or are we all having to experience this? Like, does the world genuinely expect us to be like, you know, independent and sexy and empowered and not care, sort of, which is what like Kim's character represents in some ways. And then, but also like, and Rachel talks about this all the time, but like, but have a boyfriend, but you know, you should be having a boyfriend soon. And like, you know, trying to find a stable career out of that independent sort of whatever world that you're in. It just feels like the pressures put on us are like totally contradictory. And I just find that hilarious. So I just wanted to make a comedy out of it.
Oh, you did it so successfully. I mean, it's still so crazy to me that even the ones that love us the most, who, you know, are meant to support us, can still put these insane pressures on us. Dianna, you play Kim, whose husband Max is, you know, cheating on her with Danielle, unbeknownst to Danielle at first.
Right.
How is Kim's seemingly kind of perfect life a good reminder that women, no matter how successful or beautiful, that the man's indiscretion should never be targeted or blamed on them?
Oh, wow. Well, because that's, I think there's a lot to unpack there. I think that there's a lot to dig out on why we think that. I mean, I think that's just kind of what we've been shown in a lot of films and storytelling and you know, traditional kind of gender roles. And, you know, I think we're moving away from that kind of thinking. And I think that when films like ours come into the world and you know, encourage conversation, and we kind of pick apart what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a man, like what, you know, is important, what should be encouraged, what shouldn't be, you know, there's just a lot. But I do think that, you know, it is very funny playing this character where assumptions are made about her without really getting to know her. I mean, she's there looking a certain way and dressed a certain way, but the questions are very surface level. And so I think that, you know, with so much of how we assess people who are in front of us for the first time, a lot of times you are asking questions that don't really clue you in onto who they are. And I think a lot of times like a job can be that first misstep, you know, like, and yeah, I don't know, long-winded answer.
Oh, absolutely. It's so true. Rachel and Molly, when traditionally when you're sitting Shiva, you know, during the mourning period, you're meant to also accept the comfort of others. How is this kind of a metaphor for Rachel's journey towards accepting Molly's friendship and love? Oh my gosh, first of all, sorry, I just realized that I called y'all by your real names and not your character names when
I do back and forth all the time. Where I'm like, Maya, Molly, like. I think that we were talking about this earlier, where, you know, I think Maya and Danielle have a lot of love for each other. They care about each other a lot, but there's competition there. I think there's something that is really common in our generation, which is like the inability to communicate or say how you feel. And it's like this back and forth. And I mean, when they're outside and they're like, well, I replied to your story and you didn't, but you liked it. And like, I think it's hard to go out on a limb and say that you care about each other. And when Maya first comes over to Danielle, she's totally putting up a front. And so I think it takes a while to break through that and get to the core, which is that they really care about each other.
Molly, what about for you?
I love that, by the way, because I was like, Rachel and I should, why aren't we finding our love back together? I think any form of, I don't know, I feel like even in this crazy last year, like so many it's just been a huge perspective shift for all of us about the important relationships in our life. And I think with any sort of loss, you're kind of faced with who do I want to talk to and who are my people in this world. And I think Danielle, I'm forgetting the character's name now, Danielle and Maya are learning in life that like the people that some of your like, that you have to treat those first relationships in a very delicate way and learn to communicate, because if you want to bring them into your more adult life, it takes a lot of time and care.
Absolutely. This question's for everyone. At the end when Maya asks Danielle why she's sleeping with these guys for money, she says, it felt nice to have power and feel appreciated, which I was like, oh. How can stories like Shiva Baby and others help to eliminate the shame and stigma around women and sex?
I hope that they are contributing to that elimination. I think by having more women tell stories and tell their own personal stories. I don't know. I feel so lucky that I didn't really think twice about it, especially because the short was just in this little world of film school. So I was like, oh, I can just make that's personal, and then expanding it. I didn't really think about sort of like that kind of consequence of taking my own personal sort of like sexual insecurities and putting them on blast. I think that's how, by just giving us the voice and the mic a little bit more. But I also think by like talking to more women and just writing female characters more authentically, and specifically when it comes to sex work, like just following sex workers on social media and like understanding that they are, a good chunk of them enjoy what they do and are proud of it and are sharing so much information about it. I just think there is so much stigma around women enjoying sex and like leading their sex lives in general, and then there's like the whole other stigma around sex work. So I think just listening, like, I don't know, maybe that's too simple, but just listening to women and then listening to sex workers.
I think that's 100% accurate. And I think that now we are afforded the opportunity to listen to so many more stories than we've ever been allowed to. And that, I think, is one of the strengths of social media. Obviously we know what the negatives are, but be it, their own personal social platform or podcast, or there's just really avenues to open your horizons and operate outside of your bubble. And, there are so many people willing to share their personal stories for that very reason. And so if they're willing to share, I think, being willing to listen is like the best gift that you could give.
Yeah, gosh, yeah. I think it's so important to kind of normalize these conversations. And what I loved about Shiva Baby too is I think that, Danielle herself isn't necessarily sure how she 100% feels about her relationship towards sex yet. And that it's kind of this journey that's ever changing, and that it's okay for us women to change our minds about how we feel about sex, how we feel about gender, how we feel about ourselves. I just love
yes.
that. I obviously relate to it very much.
All of us nodding. All of us just start like a lone tear falls.
Yeah.
Rachel, what was your experience with that sort of embodying kind of Danielle's journey towards kind of acceptance or?
Yeah, I mean, I related to it a lot because I grew up very religious. I felt not in touch with my sexuality at all. I was planning not to have sex until I was married. I was like scared of sex. And then I went to NYU and I think I felt right. And then it all happens to all of us. We go. And so I went to NYU and I felt like I was surrounded by people who were so much more comfortable in their sexuality than me. And I was like, I've got to do it. Like, I've got to hook up a ton and a lot, and it'll be really cool. And then I think I went so far in the other direction, and I think it took me a while to kind of find like what I actually felt comfortable with, like my own wants and desires. I felt like I was just spending so much time kind of trying to like field other ideas of what I should be. And now I feel so much more in touch with like listening to my own voice of what I want.
Oh yeah. It's a process.
It's such a process, and it's like never ends, because then you're like, oh no, and then it's like you're like, kidding, not yet, almost, but not yet. Yeah.
So true. Oh gosh, Molly, what about for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just think I related to so much about this movie, and to everything that you're saying. And I think I'm so humbled as I continue to realize I don't know anything about how I feel or what to do in life. And I think like, yeah, it's just having more stories like this is so important. I hope that in school, when you start to talk about sexuality, we can have open dialogues about what feels good for women, and just about sex in general, that's not just so focused on the man or pregnancy, and pleasure and all the different things. But it was just it was just exciting to play someone who was so attracted to someone and wanting to be with her and not trying to push that down. Like, I also think it was just great to play someone who knew what she wanted, and what she wanted was Rachel.
Absolutely. My last question is for Emma. I really appreciated how the mother-daughter relationship in this film. Why was it important for you also to make it very complex and complicated, but not cruel, and at the end of the day, loving?
Well, thank you. I feel like when I made this short film, I think, my mom is the person I feel like I know the best out of anyone. And I didn't write it as a sort of like accurate depiction of her, but sort of the love and the bond that I have with her. And when I made the short, I didn't really think too hard about it. It was always just like, oh, what can I write like the easiest? And then after I made the short, I feel like a lot of people were like, so this is kind of just like a mother-daughter story. More because Maya wasn't in the mix yet. And so they were like, the mom-daughter story is more important than almost the sugar daddy relationship story. So I just wanted to continue with that because I hadn't even thought about that. And I was just so excited that people were attracted to that element of it, especially women. I don't know, my relationship with my mom is like, I love her like more than anything in the world. And I think that mother characters often are not portrayed like as loving as I think that they are, like as so many of my friends' mothers are, and our relationships with our moms are. And yet, like you said at the very beginning, the people who love us the most sometimes can create the most conflict in them trying to help, or in them trying to offer their wisdom or their advice. So I just wanted to make sure that like from the base level, there was care and love in this relationship. But also like that can be a huge obstacle, someone constantly wanting to care for you and making sure you're okay, especially in this predicament for Danielle. So I didn't try to think about how to make it complex. I think moms are always portrayed in one way, and I think I, as much as possible, tried to bring it into like back to the love, so that you understood like why she was getting in the way. Because I think mom characters often just get in the way, and you're like, the overbearing mom, but it's like, well, why are they getting in the way so much?
100%. I very much relate it, as I'm very close to my mom, but yet Yeah, you know, it's complicated.
Complicated, yes.
But anyways, thank you so much, ladies. You know, congratulations on the beautiful film. I know you could tell I very much loved it and related to it very much. So yes, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you for chatting with us. This is so lovely.
I can't wait for the rest of the world to see this film, truly.